It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker. I'd like to thank Dr. Merav Ozair for joining us today. Merav is a data scientist, a quant strategist, and a crypto blockchain expert. She earned her PhD from Stern Business School at NYU. She has more than 12 years of business and consulting experience in the field of trading and investing algorithms using macroeconomic and market microstructure factors. Merav's expertise and experiences in blockchain and cryptocurrency. She is a member of the Academic Advisory Board at INATBA, the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting there for a second. Merav recently joined Rutgers Business School full-time as a fintech faculty member, teaching courses on blockchain and digital assets for undergraduates and MBA students. She also teaches blockchain cryptocurrency courses for our Master in Quantitative Finance program. Merav serves as an advisor and researcher for the Rutgers Blockchain FinTech Collaboratory run by Rutgers Law School. And if that wasn't all enough, Merav serves as the editor of the FinTech series at World Scientific Publishing and is in the process of writing a series of books on blockchain and cryptocurrency for them as well. And with that, I'm going to let you take it from here, Merav. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for this lovely introduction and the kind words. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today, this afternoon. I know it's lunchtime, so if you're having a lunch, keep having it. No worries. You can have your lunch and listen. We have a really interesting and very intriguing topic. We're going to talk about credit scores. And of course, this is something that is on your minds on not on a daily basis, but from time to time. And we're going to talk about the possibilities, implications, and implementations of how we can implement AI to create a better system of credit scores. So we're going to touch on all of that. I hope you're going to be intrigued by the end of this lecture as much as I am about all this space. And with no further ado, let's start with a couple of poll questions, which I want to know where you're at and what your thoughts are. So this is our first poll question. And please answer.
We'll give everyone a few seconds to respond to that. And once I see the numbers start to fall into place, I'll end the poll and show the results to everyone.
Okay.
Can you see them, or do you want me to read them out?
I see them. I see.
Okay, perfect.
I hope that everybody else sees. So what I see here is that we have about 31% of you say that you're very satisfied. 46% are somewhat, I'm not surprised. 8% not at all, and about 15%. It's funny, this is what Margaret was. You should get a lottery ticket today, Margaret.
that was my guess.
So touche to you. Yeah, so some of you don't even know what your credit score is, but hopefully by the end of this lecture, you might want to know. Okay, so let's move to our next poll question.
Again, I'll leave it up for a few seconds for people to join in and get a chance to respond. All right, I'm going to end that for the moment and share out the results with you.
Okay, so I see that, the majority are not sure whether it's going to help them improve or not. Okay, hopefully by the end, we're going to ask this question again by the end of the lecture. So maybe that number will change. So 67%, about 2/3 are not sure, 7% saying no, and 27% saying yes. So let's see. So let's start and jump into the questions and see where we at. So can you stop the polling and I can move Margaret? or can I stop?
If you X that out on your screen, it should
Okay,
disappear.
excellent. Got it. Okay, so let's continue. We did the polls. Okay, so the current system, you probably are familiar, you know that.
Merav, could I just interrupt you for 1 second? Because the first question that already came in was, people don't know what you meant by calling it an AI credit score.
Oh, a credit score, I mean, that your credit scores has, you're going to talk about, you know, what goes into your credit score and how it is calculated. What I mean is that you're going to use artificial intelligence in order to calculate your credit score. And I will talk more about that. I hope I'm explaining it correctly.
Yeah.
I'm sure that by the end of the lecture, or midway, you'll understand better.
Great, thank you.
Okay, AI meaning artificial intelligence technology, which is crunching numbers and algorithm. Okay, so the main two credit score systems that we have today are FICO, which I know that those of you who do know the credit score probably know what FICO is, and Vantage scores. So FICO has been around since 1989, so it's more than 30 years. Vantage score it's relatively younger. It's only 15 years in the market. It started in 2006. And these are the two, and I can tell that most places, you know, if you go to still use mostly, if you go to get a loan or something, they probably will use the FICO more than Vantage score. So it's still, you know, something that is mostly used. So let's see the differences. So FICO, what goes into FICO and what goes into your Vantage score? So FICO, you have the payment history. So sometimes, I don't know, those of you who do know your credit scores and they do know that you have FICO versus Vantage score and you do track both, you will see that sometimes there are differences. And differences are not just, you know, tiny differences like 2 points or 3 points. Sometimes it may be almost up to 50 to 60 points, which is very significant between the two. And the reason why people may ask themselves, why is it? I mean, that, you know, my score is a score, my history is history. Well, first of all, as you can see, they use different factors. And even if they use the same factors like payment history or the length of history of the history here, they use different weights. And not only different weights, their definition and what goes into each and every one of them could be different. And I will explain that. So this is why you get these differences between the two. So it's all about the factors. And this is why AI comes into play here. It's the whole idea about factors and data. Okay, so now, and just so you understand, this factors, you know, FICO and Vantage score, you know, decide about that due to their research that they have done. So it's kind of subjective because it's based on their research. And, you know, whatever goes into whatever they decide to put in the factor, that's what will drive your credit score. And you have no basically say on that to this end. In any event, so let's go quickly into each and every one of them. So FICO, these are the factors. So let's see what they mean. So we have payment history. So that means that that's basically the first thing that everyone is looking at. You know, how are you paying? Are you paying on time? Are you being indeliquid? So paying on time is the first thing that you have to always remember. No matter what you do, always pay on time. Even if you can only pay the minimum, always pay on time. Never be late. Once you're late, then it gets complicated. And this is the first thing and the highest score that both Vantage and FICO put into play. So the amount owed, that means, you know, let's say you have a lot of credit accounts and you owe money, but it doesn't mean that you're in high risk unless you are overextending yourself. What it means is that, let's say they give you, your credit line is basically $1,000, and let's say you are using the most of it, let's say 900 or 950. And that is kind of like, if you are over, they will interpret that you're overextending yourself, And they will interpret that, oh, you might be at a higher risk of default, or you probably need too much money. But sometimes it has nothing to do with anything. It has to do with, some period that, you're going through renovation or something and you need the money, and tomorrow you'll be fine. So that, this factors don't take into account all of you, just what they see. Okay, the lens of credit history. So credit history is a little bit tricky, because what it means is that, of course, they want to see that, you had a long-standing, your credit, you have a credit history for a long time. So if you only opened an account to start, your credit history 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that's not enough. They want to see, how long you have these accounts, how long each in general and specifically. They take, some kind of from the oldest one to the new one, to the average. And also, if there are some accounts, are you using it or not using it? So they're taking that all this into account. But it's kind of really funny in a way, in my mind, sometimes. Let's say I know people that, never had a credit card, never needed it. Every time, they all paid in cash always. And suddenly they had to open, and then, they were kind of forced to open a credit card. And then, okay, you don't have a credit history, but it doesn't mean that I haven't been a trustworthy person who pays their bills on time. So this is kind of a tricky kind of element that I guess is kind of archaic in a way, because our life has changed, and we'll talk about that. So new credits, meaning are you applying for new accounts? So they're gonna look in, your credit mix, whether you have retail credit, like, you have a credit card of, let's say, Walmart, or some kind of other retailer that you're using, I don't know, Home Depot or something. But this, FICO, in fact, they don't really, they say that it's not, you don't need to have all types of credit, whether it's loans or mortgages and others. But I think that Vantage does pay more attention to this mix. So if you don't have a loan, then it's kind of a problem for them, which is a bit worrisome in my mind. But we can talk about it. So credit mix, they show, if you open several credit accounts in a short amount of time, that represents a greater risk. But the caveat here, if you think about it, that's what they say. But the caveat is like, what if you have opened, like, retail stores? You're just, doing some home improvement, and you have Costco and Home Depot and Walmart and all kinds of other places, and which, everyone is giving you a different deal and no interest and all kinds of other things, and they don't take that into account, that, some people use all of this, open these accounts for all these good, perks and gifts that they're receiving, and it has nothing to do with something wrong with them. But they don't, but the factors don't take into account your situation, your personal situation. You just, take it like, like a black box of, okay, you have more accounts or something like that. And don't even distinguish between a retail store account to a credit card account that runs by a bank or something like that. They don't even distinguish between that. So that's another problem you can think about. Okay, now let's look what Vantage puts in. So Vantage, puts some, again, payment history. The payment history, in fact, they giving a higher weight to that than FICO, if you notice. So they do care about, how consistent you are and how on time you are. But, as I'm telling you, the most important thing is all be paid on time. No matter what, no matter how, just pay on time, even the minimum. That's the most important factor that goes in, no matter what, in both systems. Now, credit history, again, they give even a higher score to how long you have this accounts in place. You have to build your credit. But here's the thing, what if I never needed the credit, right? I never needed a credit card. I was paying everything in cash, I've been living my life, or maybe I'm just using crypto. I don't need any credit. I have, tons of Bitcoins, sitting in my wallet. So that doesn't take that into account. It just look at it's like if from the minute you're born, you should have a credit card just to build your credit history, which is a little bit, as I said, I'm having a bit of a problem with this idea of credit history here, that they give it so much weight. Now, credit usage, again, how much you use your credit. And in fact, they will even tell you the advantage, that if you have under 30% of your total limits, then you're good. So that means if, let's say, the credit card, give you $1,000, credit line, then don't use more than 300. Which is, again, as I said, it's worrisome. Why even have credit line if you don't want me to use it? So you want me to have a credit line, but you don't want me to use it, because if I use it, then that goes against me. Isn't the whole point of having a credit line is for me to use it? Should you just care about whether I'm paying on time and I'm trustworthy? And not whether how much I'm using, and just be mindful of my history of being a trustworthy person. Well, that's what Vantage wants you to do. Like, have a credit line, but don't use it. Just so you have an idea. So credit checks, this is again another, even though you don't put a lot of weight on that, it's kind of a little bit interesting, because the hard inquiries, what goes into here, it's not just whether you open a credit card. And again, as I said, a credit card could be even a retail credit card, like something that will be like a Walmart or Walmart or Costco, something like that. That will be, even though you just got a great deal or something. But also, if you're moving, for example, and you're applying for a new apartment, that will consider it as a hard inquiry. And so it has nothing to do with your credit. You just, maybe moving up in life, and you're getting a better apartment. And this is, going to stay for 2 years on your scores, which, yeah, they don't give a lot of weight, but it just they just don't distinguish between what the types of inquiries. And I don't even think that, asking for, if you're trying to move, it means, that when you're applying for an apartment, be careful, because it's going to affect your credit score. So it shouldn't be this way. We shouldn't be afraid of, moving up in life and trying to make our life better. So that's another thing to consider. And then, the available credit, which I just mentioned before. So the problems that we have today with our current system, as I mentioned, I already talked about it. I'm just going to summarize a little bit. We have a problem, the credit history. They're asking us, how long we've been. You had this credit score, which is so this credit, and what if we never needed it, the types of credit, for example, Vantage does want you to have a loan, but what if I don't need a loan? You're forcing me to have a loan just so I have a better credit score? It just doesn't make sense what they ask you to do in order for you to have a better credit score. They basically want you to get in debt in order to have a credit score. And improve a credit score, so to speak. And the hard inquiries, I already mentioned the problems with them. And the default, if you are in default, that stays on your report for 7 years, which is a little bit long, very long in my mind, because a lot of things can happen in 7 years, a lot of things. And you might move to different job, different career. Your life is gonna be turned upside down, and we saw with the pandemic, how life's gonna turn upside down. So that's a little bit. So I think, like, in the fast-paced life that we have today, this is probably needs to be changed. So I'm just telling you just a few words. And the only tech, kind of what I call like the bad issue that relates to your credit, not looking at what goes what goes for you, meaning in the positive side, your income level, your income growth, other assets that you have, that they don't take into account. They only look, on your credit without really understanding, kind of like completely unaware of all your other life, which could be fabulous. And you're doing well in terms of career, in terms of your income, in terms of your life. Maybe you have some other assets, but you don't need to be involved in all of that. So that they don't take into account, which is, again, as I said, could be problematic with these factors. And again, they decide on the factors, not you. They decide due to their own research or whatever, and they have been, the prominent ones. And as of now, there's nothing much that we as people, as citizens, can do. Well, there are attempts to improve that. This is Experian. As you probably, if you're not familiar, there are basically three credit bureaus that reports this FICO score and Vantage score, and they are Experian. Experian is one of them. We also have Equifax, and we have Transfer Union. So these are the three, and Experian is one of them. And Experian has this, I don't know if you saw the advertisements of that, they have something that is called Experian Boost. And what is Experian Boost is basically that they take into account not only your credit, activity, but also your bills, like whatever your other bills that you, and we pay all kinds of bills. I mean, we subscribe. I mean, these days we subscribe to so many things, Netflix and all kinds of applications and utilities and your phone, and you also pay your rent. I mean, why would that not go into here or something like that? I mean, because they only take into account your mortgage payments, but what about your rent payment? Because mortgage is factored as a loan, so they put into the factors of account. Sorry, but if you pay your rent on time, why isn't that a good factor? So, this takes, I don't know if they take rent into account, but they definitely take all kinds of bills, meaning that if you pay on time, then you're good. Usually these bills are paid not necessarily through credit cards. Sometimes they are directly through your a bank account or Venmo or anything like that. So they don't go through your credit card. So they never know, in these factors that exist today, whether you're paying that or not. And basically, this is definitely should be in, if you ask me, because these are important factors. Now, another poll here is that what I would like you to think is like, okay, so Experian start to know with this boost, with these payments, what else do you think should go into your credit score, and just all that apply? It could be more than one that you think. I mean, whatever you think is something that. So please answer.
So we're going to leave people a little bit of extra time for this one, since there's quite a few choices, and that people, as a reminder of what Merav said, can select more than one answer for themselves. They don't have to just pick their one top choice.
Because remember, it's all about the factors, and there could be many factors, not just one. Definitely not one.
Okay, it looks like numbers have stopped moving, so I'm going to end that and share out the results.
Okay, paying all your bills on time. Yes, I agree with you. This is definitely top of my list. Purchasing power, the value that you spend. I agree. This is 7%. Number of transactions per month. Yes, I do agree. This should go in. Saving accounts, definitely. I mean, they don't even care about whether you have saving accounts. They don't care that you have other bank accounts. On reputation, I can understand why people don't want that to be part of the factors, but I can see why people say, social activity and online reputation should not go into account. I understand why, but the professional activity, probably yes, because if you are, have a good professional reputation, then you're probably trustworthy and you getting some good income, and that probably will go into here. So I agree with the results here, and I agree with the audience. Yeah, this is definitely Very good indeed. I like that. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with me. And now I guess we can have a better idea of how to proceed with AI. So now that you understand that, and you can see, that we can add all kinds of other information. And this is why I'm saying, we're going thinking about, this AI that I mentioned is like, putting more information, more data into the pool. So let's see why it's not moving. Yeah, now it's moving. So the power of data, right? So I'm sure that you have received all kinds of emails, after you visit, some random website, asking you to buy all kinds of services, or your phone telling you, oh, maybe you should use this application and that application. And this is just an example of Amazon, but you probably saw it with other retailers. I can tell you, you're just looking for a toothpaste and immediately telling you, oh, but maybe you also should buy all of this. How do they know that? Because they have some crunching algorithm behind the scene that, take into account, that they know that if someone buys this, then they probably would want all of this other stuff. And that's, and they do it instantaneously. Once you just click on some product, immediately they give you this. So it's very instantaneous and in real time. And it's not just Amazon doing it, it's basically everyone is doing it. And I'm sure what happens after, you visit the site, if you purchase, send you an email, thank you for buying. And then they're saying, yeah, but maybe you should also buy XYZ. And so they want you to buy more. And if you didn't purchase, then they will say, hey, but you just visited our site and you didn't buy, come back. But they don't know that maybe you purchased it in some other place, you got a better deal. They don't know that because they're working in their own silo with their own data, with their own visits. And this is what they know. They don't know what you do elsewhere. So this is something that is a problem with all these kind of sites. So all companies, as I said, are doing it, from the big corporations to the smaller retailers, and all what they want is basically buy more, and also continue buying, right? Buy this product, but also buy these 10 other products, and buy today and also come tomorrow, and the second day, and the second day, and the second day. It's a very competitive market. And everyone is trying, to sell you stuff, whether it's product or services, and the stakes are high, and this is why they're all doing it. So, and this also happens with social media. I know that you don't like. I see that people don't want social media to get into the mix. But just think about it, that also social media, whether you're on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, they will send you emails like, oh, maybe you should also create suggesting new friends and contacts. And if you haven't visited the site, they will kind of sending you, hey, where were you? I mean, we haven't seen you for a while, but what if you don't want to use the service anymore? I mean, there's so many today. There's Reddit, and there's Telegram, and there's the House Club, and every day there's a new media form to either for professionals or for social, or both, and you can't really follow all of those, and everyone wants them to be on your platform. But if you be on all of these platforms, you just eventually don't do anything all day, right? You just be engaged with this, and something has to give. But they don't care because they're working in their own silo, and everyone wants to sell their own services. So that's the problem. So one thing for sure is that no matter what you do, all of your activities online, all of them, no matter where you go, whether it's a product or a service or a professional's website or social website or whatever website, you are tracked, you are cataloged, and in real time, they're monitoring, they're tracking you, they're assessing you, and all of your information is immediately being kind of put into this algorithm. You can think about, like there's a bucket here, and all of your information immediately is kind of dragged into this algorithm, and they are, in real time, they are adjusting it, in order to know things about you, just know things about the community, or just things about everyone that comes to the site and comes to the website, so that you are part of a big data. So your data points are part of the entire all data points. And Now, why are we discussing it? We're discussing, the power of data, just examples, because just to show that the data does exist, and data is very powerful, as you can see. In real time, they immediately, tell you what to do, and the algorithm, they are utilizing this data, really in real time. Whatever you do, immediately, they give you, a response. I mean, they don't just, wait a week or something, because these algos are very powerful. They're really real time algos. And they get your information and immediately adjust it and make and come up with some kind of an outcome and response. But they're doing it in silo. As I said, if you go to Amazon, then Amazon only know Amazon, and Facebook, they only know Facebook. They naturally interacting with them, and they know exactly, the whole picture of who you are and what you do. And also the focus is, of course, on marketing and operations, not so much on your credit analysis. So can we improve the credit score? Can we use this data to improve our credit score instead of using it for marketing? Because we see that data can be powerful, it can be in real time, but can we do that for our credit to help us here? Not help the companies, but to help us a little bit. So there is a case here. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Goldman Sachs was partnered with Apple credit card. And this is from the website. They said, that they used your credit score, and they even say here why are they using the credit score? And in fact, they didn't, they said that this is what they use, but they use more than that, and I'll explain in a second. And so they mentioned, why they're using your credit report, and they mentioned all the factors which we already mentioned before with FICO and Vantage score. We already mentioned all of these things. So they explain, why they are using that. But I can tell you, they didn't just use this; they used more than that. So that's what they claim on the website, what they use. However, the algo to determine the accept or deny of whether because you have to apply, for the credit card, so and to not only that, to determine the credit line that they give you had biases, and they add what we call AI biases, artificial intelligence biases. And what do I mean by that? It was all over the news. I'm not sure if you were following, but that was about 2 years ago, in August of 2019. It didn't see gender, meaning that, it means that probably the factors took into account not only what they claim that it has, but also gender as a factor. And this is if you ask me, when you're talking about credit scores, it shouldn't, see you as when you're talking about, as a person, and there are some factors. And they decide about what factors goes in. In this case, they decide that gender will be part of the factors. Who knows? Maybe they didn't even tell you. If you ask me, if they put gender aside, they probably put also all the other discriminating, factors like race and where you live and your age and all kinds of other things, which should not even be part of your credit score and your credit activity and who you are and whether you're trustworthy or not. That has nothing to do with anything. And in some sense, these factors are pretty subjective. So what happens here, I can tell you, is that, it was, why it comes all over the news is because, there was a case, that a couple, that both of them applied to this credit, and they were, they went to talk even on the news on CNBC, and they mentioned, that, they are a couple, both of them applied, and they significantly got different credit lines. For example, let's say the husband got 10,000 and the wife got 1,000. Really significant, discrepancies. And he said, and they were saying, this really doesn't make sense because she has better job than me. She's earning more than me. She has a better, everything. And why is this, and that, and then the other people, came and talk about other incidents, and I guess they changed it. But I can tell you, the first reaction of Goldman Sachs was, well, it's the algo. But as you can see, saying that this is the algo, or this is the algorithm, it's a little bit silly answer, because yes, it is called artificial intelligence, but it's not really intelligent. It has its constraints. Why? Because it depends on what data you feed it. It depends on what factors you feed it, and you decide of that. I mean, still, we're not in the apocalyptic, situation when we see sci-fi when robots, take over the world and we have no control. We're not at that stage. We still have control. We are the creators of these factors. We are the creators of this algorithm. So don't tell me that's the algo, because you have control over it and you can decide what factors goes in and what factors do not go in. And the data, yes, it's powerful, but whatever you feed it, that's what you get out. So artificial intelligence is currently not quite intelligent, and you should never lose sight of that. I know people are very hyped on AI, AI, AI. And in fact, there is now a new discipline in computer science called AI ethics. So, and that has to do with all these biases. So just so you bear in mind that this is really something that is growing right now. So, but can we really still improve and create, more efficient, trustworthy AI algorithm? I believe so. So first of all, you have to think, we have to take into account all available data, not just, the ones that, that we have in a silo, only the Amazon or the Facebook or all of those, but, really take into consideration everything that we do on all of our activities, and your, as people were mentioned, your saving accounts, your other assets, and your purchasing power and all of that, and all of these things, should be taken into account. And there's so many information that is out there and can be tapped to, and that all this information has to go into account here. Now, after you feed the data, you get, let's say you tap into all of this data, you have to really work through the biases. You test and first of all, don't put factors that are biased in the first place, like age and gender and race and all of these things, why discriminate from the get-go? You have to be very objective in your factors, not subjective. So this is also something that we have to bear in mind. And I like the fact that there are a lot of articles now in computer science that are talking about ethics. And this is important because, we shouldn't let people, dictate factors, and we have to be ethical about that. So test and retest, make sure that it is objective and effective, and really, get the right results. So it's all about the testing, understanding what goes in, and testing and retesting, because data is powerful. Now, there's something that I like to call digital identity. And what I mean by digital identity is that basically a personal identity and verification is required for anything that you do in business, economics, operations. Even when you go and apply for your marriage license, they ask you for your identity. They want to authenticate you, right? So this is, your identity is needed for everything that you do. And this, digital identity create your personalized and timely, and we can base that in order to create this more accurate with minimal and even no biases. As I said, it all depends on the factors that you feed into this. So what goes into your digital identity? The way that I perceive it, it's much more than your social security number, much more than your driver license number. It's everything, all of your footprint, your online footprint, which today, as I just gave you some example, and we saw that, it is really can be tracked, monitored in real time. Your purchases, your payments, whether you're paying bills, not just the credit and debit cards, all your bills, your rents, your utilities, everything that you subscribe to, type of services that you use, because we can track that. Exactly what type of services you use, the social media presence, your reputation. I know some people don't want that to be, maybe social reputation is not a good thing, but maybe your professional reputation, it is something that you want to include. how people interact, who you interact with, how often you interact, website that you interact with, how often you interact with this website, what do you look for, how do you look for, and the list can go on because our footprint, our online footprint is a lot of things. And I give you I invite you, to add here as many as you like. So, and this is how I am thinking, that the next level is basically will be to utilize the power of blockchain and encryption. Why? Because if you do that, if you utilize blockchain technology, your digital identity can be, yes, it can be recorded, traced, tracked, monitored, and stored all in real time. But because it is encrypted and secure and private, then the user, you, can decide which information to share and with who to share it and when to share it. So it's all in your, and I think the EU is coming up with this, digital identity idea and some proposal about regulations on that. So watch that as well. So this is how I think that the next level will be, because you're probably asking yourself, well, there's some information that I don't really want to share. I do want it to be included in my credit score, but I don't want everyone to see. So yeah, I mean, this is not a course on blockchain, but just so you understand the features of blockchains are decentralization, immutability, meaning that nothing is changed. Once it is recorded, it can never be changed or deleted. It stays there forever. There's no central authority. It is trustless. It's anonymous, pseudo-anonymous. It is cross-border, peer-to-peer. So a lot of applications can be built on that and create the next generation of AI type of credit scores. So the way that I see it is basically will be an integration. The best way will be integration of two technologies. One is the blockchain technologies, meaning the on-chain, and we'll have the off-chain, which will be the artificial intelligence. This is what I call the off-chain. So the way, just to envision it, how it's going to look like. So this is what I call on-chain, meaning on the blockchain, and this is off-chain, which is going to tap into all this information that is recorded here. So the blockchain is going to record and track all of your information, all the information that we just mentioned, and more. It will create some kind of a digital identity wallet. You have your wallet with all of your information. And this wallet will be encrypted. It will be private information, and you will have, you will have the control over that wallet to decide, what to add to that, how to add it, whether you want to share it and who you want to share it with. And then, because it is encrypted, still the off-chain can tap into that and get this information even without knowing exactly who you are. And you have all this analytics that is happening off-chain, that will be recorded on-chain, this is recorded off-chain, and it will be personalized, it will be in real time, and they will really know all this information that relates to you, and not try to put you in a bucket of somebody else or with some other people. So this is where I'm going to end today, but before we end, I'm going to do a couple more poll questions, and this is going back to the AI question again.
So we'll give everybody just a moment to participate in this, our second to last poll for today. And I think numbers have kind of stopped moving, so I'm going to end that and share the results for you.
Okay, so I see that there are more yeses than we had before. Still, there's some people that are not sure. I may probably, because it's a little bit hard to explain everything in this 40 minutes or so, but I can see that there are more yeses than we had before, and this is a good thing. So that's good. So let's move to the next question.
So again, we'll give you guys a moment or two to weigh in on the idea of next level AI-based credit scores. right, it looks like our numbers are, oh, as soon as I said that, they started moving again. All right, now I'm going to end it and share the results.
Okay, so I see that with the next level, I think people are even more unsure. I guess the concept of blockchain is not so understandable, but okay. Nonetheless, okay, so that's good to know. At least we got a better yes with the AI than we had before. Okay, so this is where I end, and I open that for questions.
So we do have a number of questions. Thanks for everybody who dropped them in the Q&A. Occasionally out of the corner of my eye, I can see the chat scrolling with a few added there. So if you have added a question to the chat, please try to copy it over to Q&A so we don't miss it for you. But I'm going to start with, let's see, the first question that came in did ask something that you kind of addressed, which is whether apartment rental payments are considered in credit scores.
No, as of now, the FICO and the scores, they don't take that into account. I mean, unless it goes to a credit card. But if you don't pay with a credit card, then no.
And then what about Boost?
Boost doesn't take rent into account. They take all the other bills that you pay.
Okay. All right.
But you should suggest that to them.
Yeah. Next question was, you mentioned what one of Vantage says about the percent use of available credit, but what does FICO say about that?
FICO doesn't really tell you exactly whether 30% or 50%. They just want you to use the least possible, but I think they are less restrictive than Vantage. Vantage is a little bit more restrictive in that sense. They probably will give you a little bit more of a leeway. They care more about the mix and other things, but they're not too specific. They haven't really posted anything specific.
Okay. And this question came in when we had shared those poll results about what factors should be considered in a credit score. So the person wanted to know, what difference does it make if you have a large account but don't actually use it to pay your bills on time?
I'm trying to understand what you mean a large account, meaning a large account like a large credit line? Like,
No, like a savings account or, other accounts that hold a lot of money, but you're not actually using that money to pay the bills on time.
Well, that's a good question. If you're really in delinquency and you're not paying on time, then I guess that's a personality issue. If you ask me, because usually people, if they have good savings and other things, then they should be, also responsible people to pay on time. So I think this is just, a matter of maybe something that I don't know if the algo can take into account your personality traits. but I think that this is probably people who just, a little bit, forgetful, something like that. That's the way
lazy, maybe.
Exactly. They don't mean to, but it happens.
So this question may have come in a little bit before you talked about online reputation, but maybe we can just re-summarize it, because they asked you to expand on kind of the description or definition of what online reputation meant.
Okay, so online reputation is like, what people write about you, who you engage, what you say, you probably see all the fights in Twitter, right? I know, like, for example, I mean, the big example, the best example is, let's say, Elon Musk, right? He has some kind of reputation, right? He tweets a lot and he says his mind and people like him and don't like him. So that's, your reputation or presence, social presence. You can think about Elon Musk. I mean, people love or hate him, right? So for better or worse. So that's what I mean by your reputation in that sense, whether are you contributing positively to the community and people saying, positive things about you, or people are trashing you all the time or something like that. That's what I mean by that.
Gotcha.
But again, it could be also very subjective. So I agree why people are saying, okay, let's not include that. I can understand that.
Yeah. And we have a person who asked if the tracking and cataloging that you referred to applies even if you don't accept the cookies from a site.
Interesting. Now with the new rules, you have to, accept or don't accept, the cookies. But I can tell you, regardless of cookies or not cookies, the algos still work. It has nothing to do with the cookies.
Gotcha.
They have a way to do it. Don't worry.
There's always a way, right?
Yeah. If there's a will, there's a way.
We had a question come in about where gender, came into the mix, and this came in around the time that you were talking about the Goldman Sachs case for sure. So, what was it to verify, purchasing habits, security, something else?
So they used, what we know. Probably there are other things that we don't know, but at least what we know in the media, what came what was reported, what was very evident, that the way that when they decide about accept, deny, and also the credit line, gender got into the mix. And maybe there were other things that went into the mix that people just couldn't really, it wasn't that obvious. But if a couple, right, a husband and a wife, they're both applying for the same credit card, and one is getting significantly higher credit line, then immediately it was obvious that something was wrong here. Maybe there were other things that were wrong, but we don't know because they weren't that obvious. And it was an age, which we don't know, right? You have to, I don't know if with different age or maybe they maybe they're taking your where you live or something like that, but we don't know. But that was obvious that gender got into the mix, and it was a gender bias. So so this something that people could know. Maybe there were other things, but we don't know. That's the thing. That's a problem. They will not tell you.
All right. So next question, is your digital identity something we should be trying to build right now? Is it something we should be considering on a daily basis?
Yes, definitely. It's something that I know that there are some people in the technology space, especially in the blockchain space, that are trying to build something that is called digital identity, and how to protect, secure, encrypt, make it private, etc. Because there are some new regulations today. I don't know if you have seen them, that relates to your digital identity and the verification of your digital identity. And the EU already put forward some regulations on that. So the question is, how we do protect if we already thinking about it? So we should do it the right way. So this is something that is definitely something that both regulators and users and companies are talking about.
Great. And just for everybody who has questions remaining, we're going to get to as many as we can until we end the hour. But the questions that appear in the Q&A come out as a report that I can share with Merav afterward, and we can potentially reach out to you and get us, an answer later. So next question, what is considered a good credit score?
Okay, so I think they will tell you that above 650 or 670 is considered a good score, depending. I think that's in the realm of good or fair.
Yeah, I've seen it vary for if you're trying to buy a house, good means this, and if you're trying to buy a car, it means that. If you just want to open a, an account at a retailer or something, it's different. So I think the answer probably varies from.
Exactly, depending on what you're applying for. If you're applying for leasing a car, then probably 650, 670 is fine. If you're applying for a mortgage, then you have to be in the 700 plus. If you are, I don't know, if there's something more than that, it also depends on, according to that, they will decide how much down payment you have to pay and how much interest rate you're going to pay for that loan. So it's all going to get into the mix. So the higher, the better. I mean, I can't do, I mean, that's what everyone tells you, right? I mean, I'm not saying something that no one else tells you, but, but I think, you should be more than what the FICO or the Vantage, factors are taken into account. There should be more into that in order to assess your credit, in my mind.
Right, right. Are hospital bills taken into account in credit scores?
No, unless you pay them with a credit card, and unless you default, and then there's a lien on some of your assets, and then that gets into your credit report.
Yeah, that gets so complicated because of disputing, sorting it out with insurance, and
Right,
it's
right.
really
If
tough.
the insurance put a lien on your asset because of that, then that gets into your credit report. But if it's outside of that and it doesn't go through a credit card or anything, then it will not appear unless the insurance has taken some measures to put it on your credit report.
Right. All right, this will probably be the last question slash comment that we have for today before I make our closing remarks. But one of our audience members said that the issue I see is adoption and not understanding the tech. How do you see your ideas being adopted by consumers, banks, merchants, regulators, and central bank?
Well, not to surprise you, or maybe I am surprising you, but just to understand, financial institutions, regulators, they're all looking at tech more than you think. And they're all doing a lot of, as I said, even the EU regulators are already looking into that. And the Fed is looking into that. And financial institutions are already working on digital identity. So it's not that they're not doing it. You may not know that because they're not going public with all the pilots that they're doing. But since I'm in the space and I'm working with companies and regulators, etc., then I'm more familiar with what's happening. So it is something that is happening. I know it's a matter of adoption. I know it might take time, but I think that if the companies and the regulators will all collaborate, they will manage a way to educate the public and explain why this is something to move forward with. And of course, also depends on how it's going to be executed. Hopefully, it will be executed in the right way that will really protect you in many, many ways. And I hope that it's all about the execution. So the education and execution is key here in order to get the adoption. And I'm sure it's going to happen. As I said, I always say that within 10 to 15 years, this is going to be the reality. If we want it, or if you like it or not, but this is where it's headed. And hopefully it will be executed well, that we all going to be happy with the results.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Merav, I'd like to thank you so much for your time. A fantastic and obviously a highly interactive presentation. Thanks also to our audience today for their enthusiastic participation, which certainly enhanced the discussion around AI and credit scores. And just a friendly reminder to everyone listening that the RBS Virtual Lunch and Learn series takes place on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Time, specifically the third Wednesday of each month. And we hope it's easy for you to remember by being in the middle of the week and the middle of the day. For more information, you can always visit our webpage. This is mostly, I'm saying it out loud for people who hear the recording because everyone else will get this sent to them via email. That webpage is business.rutgers.edu/alumni/lifelong-learning. And we have an exciting schedule of topics and presenters lined up over the next several months, thanks to great suggestions from our audience. So we encourage you to keep sharing with us. We want the series to continue to meet your needs. So please stay online for just a moment longer as today's webinar ends, because you'll immediately see a very brief 3-question survey about today's event. And one of those is a free-form field to type in topics and/or speakers you'd like to see featured in future webinars. And finally, as I mentioned when our webinar began, a link to the archived recording of this presentation will be shared via social media and emailed. It will also be found on the Business Insights page of our website. So Merav, thank you. Our audience, thank you. And everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.